So welcome everyone. The recording is on. I'm handing it over to Poulomi.
Okay, so yeah, all good.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to navigate myself through the UI of Zoom. Zoom is not a tool that I use commonly, but thank you.
Okay,
Uh,
so yeah, so welcome everyone. This is our exclusive Product Tank Pune meetup session. I am Dr. Satyavati Kharde, your host for today's event. I have been an organizer for Product Tank Pune community for a while now. I work at Springer Nature as a product manager and a scientific advisor for a life science research product. I'm currently based in Pune, and it will be amazing to know you all during this session. Product Tank Pune began in February 2019 to bring product people together to share knowledge on product management, share our experiences on various products from diverse industries, sectors, and connect as product people and grow together by honing our craft on product management. We have seen a remarkable growth since the beginning of our time in Product Tank Pune. We are now more than 2,000 members of product professionals, early stage and aspiring product managers, user experience designers, software developers, and so on. We have had 15 successful meetups so far, and this is our 16th meetup. The community has helped more than 70 to 80 members to transition to product manager positions. And every month we share several product related jobs on our Product Tank WhatsApp group and as well as Slack group. Please feel free to join them. All of this work could not be possible without Amit Godbole. So you can see him on the screen. He's a key organizer who keeps us all together and has worked day in and day out to put this well-crafted roadmap and strategy on Product Tank Pune so that we can come together, help each other, and gain more knowledge on product management. We have our own newsletter to help us with new updates and job postings. Before we start today's session, I have three main announcements. First, our next meetup is in collaboration with Mixpanel. And most of you know that we have rolled out a survey for product people in India to help understand the ecosystem of today's scenario. And we will present the results of this survey and we'll open the channel for discussions on how to improve in product management, what are the gaps, and so on and so forth. The second announcement is we are rolling out a program for freshers from university or developers or who are aspiring to be in the product management to enter as associate product managers. This program is in collaboration with Credit Vidya. If you are interested and if you are a fresher or if you know a person who will be interested to get into product management, please get in touch with me or Amit Godbole. Third announcement is, as always, Product Tank organizers are looking for volunteers. So the volunteers can help us in the newsletter that we have, or even in our very recent Associate Product Manager program. Again, please feel free to get in touch with us if you would like to contribute to the newsletter, if you would like to organize the program for Associate Product Manager. Speaking of the newsletter, we have a fantastic newsletter rolled out by Viva. Please, if you can also register for the newsletter. I'm giving the link to everyone in the Zoom. And this is a newsletter on product management, on various other topics, and it's one of the very good newsletters in the field now. Now coming to our event of today. So it's on designing experiments. And as most of you are aware that a product is always a work in progress. It's never finished. The user problems keep evolving, the user needs keep evolving. And as product managers, as team, as a part of team in product management, we're always looking for solutions that will best help them as well as our product to progress over the time. our speaker of today, Poulomi, has played multiple roles exactly in this sector for last 8 years. So she has been a researcher, a designer, strategist, a mentor, and as well as entrepreneur. She believes curiosity and pragmatism are two essential attributes to create great experiences and have a potential to create successful products and services. She has worked in various fields, like from finances, from banking, to very recently at Springer Nature, to work alongside scientists to dive deeper in their way of thinking. I think it's obvious that she has variety of experience in various fields, and this hones her pragmatic approach to research and design as well. A few housekeeping points. So before we start, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. And if it is very pressing, please raise your hand and type in your question, or we'll just pitch in and we'll ask you to ask the question. For now, I hand over to Poulomi. Poulomi, over to you.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you for the lovely introduction, and thank you everybody for joining in on a Saturday morning. And I hope I'm able to add some value. Uh, so, like Satya mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur that has bootstrapped, you know, through a startup, this particular topic is extremely close to me. How do you understand the value that you can provide to your users, and in return, then value that, as a business, um, before you spend a lot of time, effort, money, resources, and your own passion uh, to create and beautiful codes and pixel perfect screens. Right before that, how do you understand value? Let's and this particular transition, it's extremely evident in our current landscape of tech products as well, where if you on the left hand side you see it was a typical linear sort of way of working, wherein the business case was first already decided and sometimes not even transparent, and then uh, uh, user research and building the product came much later on in the journey. Now we are transitioning into a more egalitarian, wherein understanding value and creating innovative products is an ownership not just of the business but of the entire product team, which is business, users, and tech. And this particular transition is very evident everywhere. I'm sure everybody on this call has seen this particular diagram. It's actually imbibed in the product tank logo. Yeah, I can't see it personally, but it might be right there below. Uh, it's it's pretty common. But the question is, how do we move forward from here? How do we move from being an execution team, and really a good execution team, to contributing to discovering the discovery of the value itself? One of the ways of doing that is through series of experiments. Uh, what does experiments really mean? It's commonly used by scientists, now recently sort of entered into our field, wherein we devise a procedure or a test which is to get evidence of this of a particular change or a design or um, anything new that we are looking at. I wanted to simplistically put it. I don't want to use a dictionary definition. But that's what experiments is it's going from opinionated decisions to evidence-based decisions. Every time there is an idea in the team, and the team gets excited about it, oh yeah, this seems like a good idea. But uh, the way experiments work is this is a okay, let's store this idea and look at the evidence, and then decide whether it is a good idea for our product or not. So quickly, to sort of go through the aims of conducting experiment, It's A, to learn before development. We are in no more luxury of creating an entire product and then understanding that that product wouldn't see the daylight. Spending hours is just not something that we're interested in anymore, and it's something that we're moving forward from. To take evidence-based decisions and to make smaller bets. Again, when if you remember the diagram that I just showed earlier, with this particular way of working, the amount of effort, time that is gone in developing one idea, in this particular method, we can sort of bucket our efforts and time. I'm sorry, I can hear somebody. Can everybody go on mute? Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so to instead of putting all our energy into developing one value, one idea, we place smaller bets and observe what is really happening to it, and then select a winning idea and go and scale and then get into the execution and development bit of it. This is the framework that I generally use. You'll see variations of this particular framework on internet. What I'd suggest is start, with one of the frameworks. If you've not started, or your company has not started, doing experiments, what I would suggest is start with one of the frameworks and adapt it based on the strengths and weaknesses of your company. I'm sure it'll be difficult. It's not that easy, but then I'm sure if done with dedication, it's a very fruitful way of working. The first leg of this particular way of working is preparation of the ideas. Let's say your team has 100 ideas for one particular business strategy. How do you really organize these ideas, select them, prioritize them, especially when ideas by themselves are not comparable? It's like comparing apple to orange. So with this particular method, what we would do is we would put ideas in a framework, and based on that framework, be able to compare ideas and prioritize and select. Once you've selected the ideas that you would like to go ahead and test, we would discuss the methodologies, the metrics that you could use, and sort of attach a success criteria to it. What happens if this particular idea fails? What happens if it passes? What do you do next? This is basically what we are going to discuss today. Let me move on to delve deeper into the first part, which is preparation of the ideas. Right. So, like mentioned earlier, if let's say your team has 100 ideas, the thing is, different ideas would be at a different level. There would be ideas that talk about functionality. There would be certain ideas that actually talk about value. Our job is to visually map these ideas and to understand which of them are really questioning the value, and which of them are talking about the feature, the functionality, the UI. And let's say, so in this particular example, I've taken an example from my current company, Spinger Nature Experiments, where we recently did an experiment to accelerate COVID research. I'm not going to delve too deep into this particular domain because there's a lot of domain knowledge associated to it. But I'm going to delve deeper, a little bit deeper into what value is and what functionality is, and with this particular example. For example, we've written here, like, the users would like to select paper based on ingredients and methods. So basically, we are talking about selection, and we are assuming that the selection that the user would do would be based on these two particular criterias. If we have evidence for this particular value, only then we can go ahead and test at a functionality level, the ideas that were related to functionality. If we do not have evidence at a value level, I'd sort of not ask you to, test at a functionality level, because you're not going to get results. You're going to not get any insights, or get mixed insights, or worse, wrong insights. So the main point here is, first question, what are you trying to learn out of this experiment? Whether it is at a value level or whether it's at a feature level. Uh, if in this particular case study, the value level was pretty clear to us. We had experience in it in past user research, and we had also we'd done a lot of secondary research through trustable sources. So we were pretty confident that we want to bet on this particular value. The question that we were asking were, okay, we know that they do select on these two criterias. Now, what is the best way to present these two particular ideas to the user? Just to so the methods to do this particular mapping are, these three are the ones I generally use. You can Google those. I'd genuinely say there's a lot of material associated with this. So do Google and delve deeper into these methods. Once you've mapped the values, what happens is, from, let's say your team had 20 ideas, you sort of narrow down to 5 ideas, because that's the value that you are clear on. So imagine there are 3 values here. That's the value that you are clear on, and that those are the ideas that you would like to test further. In this particular example, I've used this. Let's create a table to compare. So imagine the team coming together and saying, oh, let's create a table to compare ingredients and methods across papers. That's the idea. The idea then needs to be converted into a hypothesis. I'm just going to first read out the example, and then I'm going to sort of pick pieces out of it and talk about it. So we believe that a comparison table of ingredients and methods across coronavirus paper will help researchers working with coronavirus find relevant papers faster and will increase our usage by 10%. So for the first bit, what we did is, we as a team admitted that it's an assumption. That it's not a solution yet. It's just an assumption for now, and that mindset is extremely important when you go into this particular way of working. So you've already called it an assumption. You've precisely mentioned your idea or the change that you want to do. You've mentioned the user type, help researchers working with coronavirus. Now, a lot of times when we think of ideas, we think that they're going to be for all users. Every user in my platform is going to be affected by this idea, or is going to be, it will add value to every user, but that is not the case. Generally, it's very good to understand exactly which user group are you talking about. This will also help you decide whether you want to work on this hypothesis or not, and create experiments or not. Because if the user group is too small, or if it's not really associated with your business goal, then you would not go ahead and make experiment on it. You've clearly mentioned the user group. Then you've clearly mentioned what is the impact on the user group. With coronavirus, what we are going to do is, we are going to help them find relevant papers faster. When you go deeper into this process, a lot of other sort of materials would say, define exactly in a statistical format what is the impact. So example, it will help researchers find papers faster by a minute, or by an hour. So clearly defined. But that sort of benchmarking comes when a company is extremely evolved to this particular way of working. And hence, for now, what I would say is, write down the draft of an impact in as precise manner as possible by you and your team. And then the next leg of it is we'll increase our usage by 10%. So we've already mentioned our desired outcome as a team as well. Again, a very good sort of way to select a hypothesis that you would want to experiment is based on the goal. If it isn't part of your next 6 months goal, would you then really experiment on it right now? So these are all the methods that would help select which hypothesis that you would want to go ahead with and conduct your experiments with. What we've basically done here is we've taken an idea, we've written down the scope of impact of that idea, and then we wouldn't compare ideas on compare or prioritize ideas based on the value, but its impact radius. Just to recap, a good hypothesis defines the change in a very precise manner. It defines the user type. If you are saying all users of my platform, probably the hypothesis is not drafted well. It defines the impact and it defines the desired outcome. If your team is not in this particular process of writing hypothesis, I think the first thing to gear up and go towards conducting experiments and managing experiments is to start writing hypothesis. When let's say tomorrow, or not tomorrow, sorry, tomorrow is Sunday, but on Monday when you go to work and you see that there's a feature being added to your Jira board, you wait and you question, okay, what is the evidence that was there that we were baking this feature on? Can I formulate a hypothesis around it? And this together, when your team does, you're going to be aligned, not at idea or feature level, you're going to be aligned at an outcome level. And it is going to streamline a lot of work just by writing hypothesis, not just like conducting experiments, just by writing hypothesis. Again, so when we get into the selection of hypothesis, the one that we mentioned earlier is does it align to the goal? The second and third question to really ask is how much evidence do you really have to support this hypothesis from your prior understanding? If the evidence is too low and the risk is too high of this particular hypothesis, then I would say don't select it. If the evidence is too high, then maybe you don't really need to conduct an experiment. So try to map your hypothesis at an evidence and risk scale to select the hypothesis that you would like to work on. And if you're, again, initiating into this process, I would say take smaller ones, take something that is manageable and then you think are well drafted. Once you've selected the hypothesis, next is to understand the method that you would use to collect evidence. The most common methods that everybody knows of are wireframes and A/B testing, but those are not the only methods. I've listed down, and I would encourage everybody to take a screenshot and discuss with the designers and researchers in your team. I wouldn't be able to discuss each one of them. But what I would like to communicate is you should select a method that can provide strongest evidence to your hypothesis. And you should also factor in your company's strengths and weaknesses. For example, if your company is extremely active on social media, that's a strength of the company that can be used. So select, I particularly like this, I like this quote particularly quite a bit. from IDEO, which is focus on building prototypes that spark behaviors. Do not, so if you have, let's say, a concept of a chatbot and you go ahead and test wireframes, you probably might not uh, get insights that drive business strategy or drive the core of the you probably might get insights based on the look and feel of the product. Then based on what is your hypothesis, what are you really questioning, select the method appropriately. We are going to look at a couple of case studies which are beyond A/B testing, beyond wireframes. This first one is called Wizard of the Oz. It was done by IBM in 1984. The problem that they were facing was typewriters or keyboards were really slow. So when users were using it, it was quite inefficient mode of working. It was like, they used to use one finger at a time and type, and it was quite an inefficient way of input. What they wanted to test is text to speech. If the user speaks to the computer, what would be the comfort level of the user, and would it be accepted by the user? And so what they basically did is they got users to their organization. They put a microphone, as shown in the image, microphone in front of them, and when they spoke, the user thought that the words magically appeared in front of him, her. But the truth was, these words were basically sent to a typist, and they typed, and the words then appeared on front of the user. What they basically did is they took a technology that did not exist, and they tried testing it using a very innovative method. It's called Wizard of the Oz because front of the like the play, front of the curtain, things go seamlessly. It appears seamless, but behind the curtain there is a lot of things happening, a lot of manual work happening. Hence, the method is called Wizard of the Oz. They got pretty interesting insights at that particular point in 1984, which might be common for us now, but they came to know that while initially the user got excited, like, oh, this is magic, I would definitely buy this. Over the course of 2-3 hours, the users changed their answer to, this is cumbersome, talking is cumbersome, I'd prefer typing. It also did not provide privacy to the user, and so it provided pretty interesting insights to the company. The second method that I would like to talk about is painted doors. Again, a very, very interesting method. I'm going to talk about this very small company called DRAM, which their hypothesis was that women, like celebrities, would like to change their wardrobe often, and they would like to wear extremely branded clothes, like high-end branded clothes such as Sabyasachi, etc. And they would pay rent for it. That was their hypothesis. They started a social media campaign. There's currently no product right now. It's a painted door. It looks like a product. It feels like a product, but currently the product does not exist. The door is just painted on the wall. It doesn't actually function as a door. They put it on social media to understand how people are reacting to it. They also created a landing page and simply put their value proposition in a simple HTML text format, and asked if people were ready to make one commitment, become the member of it. Then not asking for payment right now, nothing. Are people ready to do one commitment? The first ladder, the first step in the ladder, and become a member of something like this. Once you once you click on apply, it actually takes you to a discovery survey, wherein they ask, why are you really interested? What is your top priority when you are signing up for something like this? Um, what are the brands you're interested in? How much would you like to pay? How often do you go to functions wherein for which you would buy rent high-end clothes? So they created a discovery survey. The third method that I would like to talk about is mock sale. This was done by this brand called March Tea. I've tried to keep it local and find small Indian cases, because there's a lot of innovation happening in the way value is investigated within these small startup Indian brands. So I've sort of tried to keep it there. The method that they used was mock sale. Basically, March Tea was a already established company for t-shirts or clothing. And then they thought that when the coronavirus bit happened, that the people would want to buy masks from them. What they did is they just put their value proposition on their platform to look so that the existing user, they clearly then define their user types. It's the existing user. Existing user could, understand what sort of value that their product could give. They also were very transparent that this is a prototype project. This is not yet. Only if they saw a certain amount of value or evidence that people would buy from them would they actually go ahead and make that investment of making them. And once and again, they weren't really asking for money yet. They were just asking for, would you like something like that? If yes, please give us your email ID. The first sort of step of commitment towards uh, uh, investigated value. And then when they saw enough amount of uh, evidence, they started making it and then started emailing people who actually had registered. Then after selecting the method, the other two bits that you need to do is measure and be very clear of what you're going to measure with that prototype. I've also been fallen into this trap of creating a prototype, putting it out there, but unsure what we really are measuring, or how long are we really measuring it? When do we come back and say whether this hypothesis worked or not? So it's very important to be, write down as a team of what, with this particular prototype or experiment, what are you really going to measure? For example, the comparison table that we spoke about. I'm just going to sort of read this test card. I particularly like this test card. It's by this book called Testing Business Ideas by Strategizer. So we believe a comparison table of ingredients and methods, the hypothesis that we spoke about earlier. To verify, we will manually curate 13 papers. So we are ready to put that much of effort. And this is the prototype that we are going to use. We are going to manually create 13 papers and showcase it to our users. And we are going to measure the survey response that we get for at least a month, and the amount of interactions that take place on that particular page. And then the next bit comes when you decide the success criteria. 50% of our users need to respond that they found this information useful. Only then would we really consider this particular hypothesis as true. So these two other measures sort of that you need to define before you actually run the experiment. Once you've run the once you start running the experiment, it's just the matter of, then checking whether it is matched, has it come up to the success criteria or not. At the end of the experiment, if you found evidence that supports the hypothesis. For example, in our case, we had found 80% of users said yes on the survey that they found that information useful. Then you would get into testing for either stronger evidence. If the risk is too high, you would like to create another test, or you decide to scale, decide to grow, decide to invest in that particular idea or hypothesis. If the evidence does not match up to the success criteria, you've still although the hypothesis or the experiment can be called as it failed, you've still gathered a lot of insight about your user, about the environment the user is in. And at this particular point, you can decide whether you want to pivot, basically change the hypothesis a little bit, and then go back to the market. Or would you like to park that it is not any worth to invest in this particular experiment or hypothesis? We will go on and test the next one. If the results are unclear, which is the case initially when you start in this process, which metrics to look at, how to it's pretty unclear. So you modify the test a little, and if you think that the test cannot be modified, then you sort of pass the experiment. I'm nearly at the end of my talk, and I would like to sort of leave with this particular quote from Carl Sagan, saying, "Science is a way of thinking much more than a body of knowledge." The methods that we use are going to evolve. The measures that we measure, the metrics that we measure is going to evolve. There's a lot of knowledge out there. But the way ahead is having a evidence-based mind. Do not get overwhelmed with the amount of content that is there out there. It is quite a bit. Do not get overwhelmed by the amount of things that need to be done. Just take the first step and focus on the features, the stories, the work that I do is, I would like it to be evidence-based rather than opinion-based. If you would like to learn more about this process, there is a lot to learn. These are the people that I would highly recommend. I think it would be mailed to everybody after this particular call. But if not, please take a screenshot here. The people that I asked you to follow, they have written their books, they have their own podcasts, they write their own blogs, and they're extremely active on LinkedIn. And so it won't be difficult to sort of find materials related to them. Yes, now we can open for questions.
Thank you so much, Poulomi. So the first question is from Bosch. So would it make sense to move user research to the first step in the process? It's related to your first slide, to inform the business case. Don Norman once said, "We need to discover what users need before the project starts. For once started, the direction has already been determined." Fantastic question here.
Absolutely. I think user interviews or user research in any format, shadowing or user interviews, is something that should be the first step of the understanding the value. But that cannot be the every time. We cannot go to users, although that would be my go-to method, because it gives a lot of evidence. But the concern would be we can't find users, or we don't have budget to pay incentives, or we don't have time to create a plan. So there are other methods to go to. Basically, the point is, talk to the users, There are various methods now to talk to the users. But user research or discovery research is something that we would highly recommend before you get into the mapping the value. Yes.
Thank you, Poulomi. The next question is related to ideas. So you've said that at the beginning you collect a lot of ideas, right? And then you select maybe a few ideas and then generate hypothesis. So ideas are something that people love to give, and there might be chances that you omit a few ideas, and there are chances of the team dynamics could change because certain ideas were not selected. So what is the methodology that you follow in order to prioritize ideas, in order to get the best of the ideas? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is separate the idea from the idea giver and make that as your team culture. Uh, it doesn't matter where the idea comes from once it in what's is in the idea bank, and hence keep your idea bank as a living document. It doesn't matter where it has come from. So if the CEO of the company says, okay, let's do this, put it in the idea bank. And because we don't want to just follow opinions. And then each idea, then you are questioning how much evidence you have for this particular idea, whether it is from prior user research, whether it's from you're basically maintaining a document. um, and this particular way of working, like earlier designers were the one who would just propose the UI. Now we are looking at changing that, where we are saying democratizing design and saying everybody could have good ideas, um, and moving forward with that direction. But yeah, to manage is my first recommendation is separate the idea from the idea giver. And the best way to do that is put all the ideas in a document and don't associate names to it. Uh, that means all of them are equals. And then the next sort of column would be what's the evidence for it? And then what's the risk that it will can? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Poulomi. So the next question is, what is the difference between UCD, I believe it is user-centered design, and this approach that you have given us today?
Okay. So that's a very interesting question. Um, this by itself is user-centered design. The first statement that I would like to say, you are trying to understand the value that your business, that your team can provide to the users. So it is user-centered design, and then it goes a step beyond it. And in return, what is the value it can provide to the business? So when you are ideating, you are definitely considering what is the pain point it is solving, and that's the value, or what is the opportunity space or problem space that this idea lies in. That is the value that you're questioning, and hence it is a user-centered way of working. But there is certain amount of leanness that this particular mechanism provides. Um, while a design-centered approach sometimes can take waterfall sort of behavior, wherein 6 weeks or 8 weeks of discovery is something that the team cannot spend on. We can focus on other methods to talk to the users. It's still user-centered design. It's just also focusing on leanness and involving the entire team in the user-centered design approach.
Thank you, Poulomi. So Siley asks, would designing experiments help to choose which tech platform we use to design a B2B or a B2C mobile app?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I think there's a lot of context that will be required, but for now, can you repeat the question?
So maybe I can ask Siley to repeat and ask. Yeah, Siley?
Hey, hi. So,
Hi.
question goes, which tech platform we choose while designing a mobile app, let's say B2B or B2C. This can designing experiments help in this case.
Can you elaborate on when you say tech platform, what do you really mean?
So, what kind of technology we use to design the mobile app? Then, what kind of uh, resources we put into it, and the technical side of the things. So we understand designing experiments is more of users preferences, understanding how users need the value from, but does it also involve at the technical
So,
side we design experiments and gain before we start actually implementing.
so there are, genuinely speaking, there are ways of doing it. Unfortunately, I might not be the right person talking about it. Um, but what I would say is let's discuss offline.
So, Poulomi, I just wanted to add to Sayali's question here. So, Sayali, see, designing experiments, which tech platform to use? First of all, let's separate the problem and the tech altogether. Because, tech is just a means to achieve an end, right? You can decide tomorrow, which Kotlin is better or Android is better, or, there are different platforms which are available. The focus of the designing experiments is to understand the user persona. What kind of, like Polomi has just described everything, is that, what is our value we are driving, and what is our value proposition, and how the user would be benefited, through these experiments, whether this experiment is valid or not. You check all these kind of assumptions while designing the experiments. Which technology to be used for designing an app can be, an outlying outcome of that, which will hint you that, this is would serve the purpose more. But, to be honest, technology is just a medium, or end to a means to achieve an end. That's the way I would look into it.
Um, I would agree with Jay. There are times when the reason I said offline, because there are times when it can answer and there are times when it can't. For example, if your user group is older adults, where accessibility is a key, uh, then it does inform. Uh, but there are times when it doesn't, and hence it will be very specific to your use case.
All right, thank you so much. I can discuss it later as well. But now, thank you so
Sure,
much, Jay and Polami.
sure.
Okay. We still have a few questions for me. So, would you prefer answering the questions or starting the workshop, because it's already 11 o'clock? Yeah,
Maybe we can start the workshop.
perfect. So, Naveen, would you like to unmute yourself and explain
Yes,
about the workshop? Yeah.
yes. So I hope everyone had an enriching experience listening to all the great things that Polemy had to share with us regarding designing experiments. Thank you so much for being such a fab audience. Now, moving on to our second section, which is talking about workshop. So, whatever we have heard from Polemy today, we'll do some of that in our workshop exercise so that every one of us has an hands-on experience on what we were discussed today. So, for the purpose of the workshop, so Polemy, do you want to share your screen?
Oh, I thought you're taking over, so I stopped sharing.
No,
I can share my screen.
okay.
Oh, but
The other worksheet, or okay, I can do.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So so let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yeah.
So all right. So we will have this exercise done in the same common room, and because we want Polemy's presence, and closely we want her to closely monitor how this is going. So we're not breaking into different rooms, but we will have a common common workshop in the same room, right? And for the purpose of this workshop, we will be doing two things. We have a problem statement, and we will be collecting ideas and then converting them into hypotheses. And finally, we will shortlist some of the hypotheses based on the rationale that each of the hypotheses has, right? This exercise we will do as a team, and as Poulomi explained us, we have 4 steps while we are designing experiments and conducting them. So we start with preparing the ideas, creating a test, then running the experiment, and then finally making a final decision as to what needs to be done with the outcome of the experiment. Now, in the first step, so let's start with the first step, and that's what we want to concentrate in this workshop, where we are saying what are the ideas that we can generate as a team, and then how do we convert those ideas into meaningful hypothesis and a good hypothesis that Poulomi explained us in her presentation. So I'm assuming that everyone is excited to participate in this exercise. With that said, let's introduce the scenario.
So Naveen,
Okay.
we can make copies of ourselves, uh, right? And people can everyone do on their own, or how is it?
So I'll explain. So what we are doing is, what we'll do is we'll explain the scenario, we'll explain the problem statement, and then people can start pinging on the chat boxes, and we'll collect the text from there and paste it in a Word document. So feel free to paste it in the text chat boxes, uh, and we'll pick it from there. Harneet, Satya, can you help us in collecting the content that is getting posted on the chat box?
Sure. Yeah, I'll quickly create a Word document.
Yeah, yeah,
Meanwhile, when Poulomi is explaining the scenario.
yeah. So Poulomi, do you want to explain the scenario and the problem statement, and then we can take it from there?
Sure. So this is a sample scenario. It's not something that it's a fictitious scenario. Let's call it like that. Although this statement made by the director of product innovation Netflix is true, but ahead everything is fictitious. Uh, so India has the most number of mobile users of Netflix in the world, and so Netflix created a new plan for mobile, which is only subscribed to the mobile. And yeah, this was basically an announcement of it so that the user, while is on the go or at home, can view Netflix on mobile. And the subscription plan was much lower. If we go to the next slide, when the data trend analysis was done by the product team, here we would assume all of us are in the product team of Netflix. That at entire 3 cities, 72% of mobile users quit at payment gateway. Uh, Potential, so after which user interviews were done to understand what really was the problem, and these two were the key insights, wherein one of the user group and everybody in this sort of would understand this particular two insights. It's quite common in India basically, that the person didn't have debit or a credit card. The homemaker did not have a debit or a credit card, and in general when the person uses sort of to pay, uses cash or sometimes Paytm. The second user said that I think English has only uh, English shows, and the user wasn't comfortable. Like, I don't watch English shows, I watch Hindi or Telugu movies and shows. So these are the two user insights that we've gotten. Now, uh, what we do is 5 minutes we'd spend by ourselves understanding this particular problem space and ideating. After that, we would create hypothesis. Naveen, would you like to explain further?
Sure, sure. Okay, so our first step, so everyone will be given around 5 minutes to think about this problem statement, uh, to internalize this problem and come up with ideas as to how we would solve this problem and what would be our idea to solve this problem, right? And then as a next step, we will have some hypothesis developed around that statement or that idea. So so if anybody has any doubts on the problem statement, let me know. If not, then 5 minutes is yours, and then we'll connect back after 5 minutes, where we'll start sharing our ideas. Make sense?
One thing to remember is, as of now, we are in a diverging sort of phase of our, product discovery. So don't think of technical constraints right now. Think of possibilities. Just focus on the possibilities and not technical constraints. Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Do you have any questions?
Hello. শুনতে পাচ্ছিলাম না তো।
Okay, I would request people to go on mute if they don't have any questions. But if you have questions, feel free to ask.
হ্যাঁ, কে? మా మాత ఎవరైనా নেই তো আজকে?
Somebody.
I have muted. No. Okay.
Well, people can also speak maybe if they have any suggestions.
Yeah, and feel free to even
Silent.
and feel free to even ping your points in the chat. If you're already done with the ideation, feel free to ping them on the chat box, and we can start picking from there. I'll just read out these problem statement once more so that we all know what we are talking about. So we are all part of Netflix product management team, and our team observes that in tier 3 cities that 72% mobile users quit at the start of the payment gateways. Some of the intercepts that we have got from our interviews with the users was that they don't have debit or credit card, and they mostly deal in cash. So sometimes Paytm to make those payments. The second observation was people had a lot of problem in understanding the English content, which is hosted on the Netflix. So they would prefer something on, so they basically drop out because the content is not suitable to them. So those are the observations or the intercepts from the user interview. If we have the ideas collected, feel free to ping them on the chat box. We'll pick it from there and add it to the Word document.
I think Netflix also has a lot of regional content now. Was it based on some exercise or any trends?
Sorry, Netflix also has?
Has Netflix started adding regional content these days?
It has.
And that would have been based on similar exercise they did.
So this is a user perception that has come to us. A user perception might not, while right now or before also, there was a lot of Hindi and regional content that was there on the platform. The user thinks that the platform has only English content. This is a perception that has come. to us. Now, our job, so based on these two sort of insights that we've had, how will we change? What change would we make to the platform? Uh, that's what we should sort of ideate about.
Uh, Also, one of the problem statement which homemaker in Bikaner says was about the debit or credit card. So that's, I
Yes.
think, very common in tier 2, 3 cities.
Yeah, it is. This, in fact, was a real use case, but not in India, in South Africa for Netflix.
Do you
So,
know how? Can you probably tell us how they solved it?
no. Right now we are ideating. It's a different market.
So my few cents for this point that this homemaker in Bikaner, so we can see that they have mobile phone and they don't have debit or credit card. Then most of these users, they go to some kirana shop to get their account recharged, because if they have done recharging their account online, they would have Google Pay, Paytm or something like that. So we can have some tie-up with these kirana shops like the, or some telecom operator, where this kirana shop, like they recharge the mobile account, they can recharge this account. And in that case, this Netflix account that has to be created without payment being in advance.
Nice observation, Praveen.
Yeah, I pasted the same idea on the chat just a few minutes back.
We have somebody from South Africa. Hey, Sunil. Is he there?
Yeah, I was in South Africa.
Unfortunately, I don't have access to.
Unfortunately, this mute button is not so friendly with me. So this has been in the calls so far now for me. Hi guys.
Hey, hi,
Hi.
Sunil.
So,
Go ahead.
sorry, please continue, Sumit.
No, I just heard something that Amit was saying. I'm not sure about the question.
That's okay. Follow me. We can. Please go ahead.
Yeah. For 5 minutes, yeah, just focus on not on other people's ideas, but what are your thoughts, and sort of formulate your own thoughts around it. Uh,
Poulomi, we are done with 5 minutes. Yeah.
okay. So the next step, Naveen, will everybody be able to copy paste that particular? If we go on the Google slide again, will
Yes, they should be. So we can give the link to everyone so that, okay, let me know if you're not able to access the sheet. Okay, so as a next step, what we are trying to do is, all of these ideas are great. Do we want to give a minute to just discuss these ideas? If you have any questions on those, or anything that you want to elaborate more on?
Yeah, maybe somebody who's given this idea, maybe they can talk about it.
Yeah.
Borg, Amit Nahar.
so. In fact, what would be a good exercise is people who've given the idea, if you can try to formulate your hypothesis. Remember, not all the user type. Currently, these are potential users. They've not paid yet. So, whether will your idea work on that particular user type or not? So, what I would like you to do is try to create a hypothesis on the idea that you've given. The format of the hypothesis, Naveen, can we copy paste the format of the hypothesis so
Yes,
that
yes,
everybody can?
yes, I'll do that. And this sheet is open for everyone, so they can start adding their points.
Can we get the link again, please, of the sheet? Okay, I can see it. Thank you. Uh, Kevin, can you share the link of sheet?
Busy గా ఉన్నాను, అప్పటి నుంచి సేపు వదిలేసి.
Just a minute.
It started 5 minutes again. Hypothesis. Let's try and construct one hypothesis. So most of the content, most of the ideas, we can bucket them into 2 or 3 different zones, like making the content more attractive by showing trailers or having some kind of addiction towards the content. Then we have a lot of ideas on payment options. For example, adding cash, enabling the option to add cash directly to online pocket. And then on languages, we have a lot of points. So which idea would you like to take up, Poulomi, based on the language, based on the payment, based on the type of content? Yeah.
So
What I'd like to do is the person who's given the idea,
Hmm?
let them try to make a hypothesis based on their own idea. It sort of becomes a reflective mechanism that you do on your own idea.
and I've pinged the summary of what Poulomi had on her slides for a good hypothesis. Uh, I mean, so reiterating what Poulomi just said, um, each of us had good points, good ideas. Let's take it a step further, consolidate them into an hypothesis. And for a good hypothesis, please include uh, the following 4 parameters, where you're talking about the change that you would bring, uh, the user group or the focus group that you would be focusing on, the impact that this idea would bring, and what's the outcome that you're looking at.
So really try to visualize. Okay, this person has not paid yet, doesn't have access to the content yet, and try to imagine what you have written and the impact of it on the user, and then the impact of it on the business.
Again, we have 5 minutes for everyone to put in their hypothesis. I see people are already typing in. For others, feel free to use this as your working document. Um, if thoughts are not yet, solid, that's fine. You can keep refining them, but every row is attributed to the person who has basically given that idea. So feel free to use your row.
So I'd like to sort of maybe take one and just discuss. Uh, so let's say row number 10. Since most of the users quit before payment, Can we introduce some offers like cashback or any other introductory offer for the? So here we've written users always need motivation before going ahead for any online payment. Uh, Try to make your hypothesis from a user's perspective. When you are offering cashback, what are you really giving the user? What is the impact? Uh, Here we are saying, okay, users need motivation. Has that come in some, do we have evidence for that? Uh, 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 that they would need motivation. So try to restructure, reframe your hypothesis on, if you offer cashback to the user, what is the impact that you believe that the user would have?
So it will it will give you say like a Netflix, you can say a competitive advantage as compared to other OTT competitors, because like they don't have cashback or something as such. Or you can say like if user who is doing like it's kind of a first subscription for him, so that kind of motivation that I was talking about, so that we can
Okay,
attract the user, like right, like there are so many other OTT platforms like Hotstar and all that, but so why he should come to me? So
let's go to the next level of the why. So you're saying it will attract the users.
mm,
Why would it attract the users? Let's sort of go to the next level of why.
okay.
Kedar, feel free to add that to your row if you've already against your idea, whatever you're pinging, so that we can see there as well.
Oh, okay. You want me to add directly to this
Yeah,
document?
yeah, yeah. Feel free to
Okay.
add that. Yeah, we'll.
Oh,
I've just pasted an example of hypothesis which we just discussed in the workshop. Um, so it's basically we believe that a statement that you have a belief that a comparison table of ingredients and methods across coronavirus papers will help researchers working with coronavirus find relevant paper faster and will increase our usage by 10%. I'll also paste the format so that we have a uniform format, right? So let me do that as well.
Poulomi, isn't the problem statement here is, it's a classic case of cart abandonment which happens in the e-commerce, right? At the time of the payment, majority of the users are quitting, right? So the problem statement here is, there is an enormous amount of user are falling through cracks here, and how can we avoid it? Now, one of the survey elements is that either it can be a payment gateway. One of the problems is that they are not enabled to make the payments one way or the other by cash or through wallets. The other is that they are not seeing the enough regional content or vernacular content which can be an enabler at the point of sale for Netflix.
Mhm. Yes, well put. Yes, these two are, yeah,
So we
they're
can certainly
points.
take if this is a classic e-commerce problem of cart abandonment, then we can certainly replicate all the hypothesis or solutioning will come later on, but in terms of framing of the hypothesis should be around these keeping the cart abandonment problem in mind. That's my view, but what's your take on that?
Absolutely. So the desired outcome should be in the end, increase in conversion rates
Exactly.
or
So the idea is to increase the user base or to increase the adoption of the product, which is not happening at the moment because users are not just they are searching for it, but they are not making a decision to sell or to buy at that particular point of time. So that's where NetSuite, sorry, Netflix has to make this. Uh, enable the user to make that first step, and once it is already in the user funnel, then you can create all these initiatives to ensure that there is a greater adoption of Netflix, and how can you keep them engaged, for the lifetime value of the customer.
Mhm. So one of the key sort of elements that comes out of this exercise is when you take user interviews, and then when you go into the next step of ideation, a lot of times there is a major disconnect what the user research said and what we ended up developing. So there is a major disconnect. What we are doing with hypothesis is we are creating a solution unit. The reason why we are making any change in our product, there is this reason for it, and the reason was the evidence of that reason was there in the user research.
Got it.
And we can clearly see that it's very difficult to actually get into this mindset. Our mind easily jumps and thinks about what's the competition doing, what other things that are I've seen, and it's good. Let the
Yeah.
mind jump. But to understand, all of those are assumptions. All of these are our assumptions that this is how the user is going to perform, or this is how the user is going to act. uh, our task would be to sort of take these hypotheses and then go back out there in different formats, talk to the user.
So follow me. I see that couple of people. I mean, many have
Yeah.
written their points on hypothesis. Do you want to pick some of them, go through them, or I mean, what
Yeah.
makes sense? Because I mean, yeah, I mean, so that we can refine these and finally get to something which is meaningful, right?
Sure.
So
Sure. Sure.
do you
Let's
want
do
me
that.
to highlight, or you want to pick and
Sure.
choose itself? Okay, so
Sure.
I have this idea 18. I feel it's already there in the format. Do you want to go through this, or anybody who
Sure.
has somebody? So the person who has written this probably can read out so that we can have more context to it.
Yeah.
So the idea is, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you asked me to read out. Sorry.
Yeah, Vedant, please go ahead.
Basically, the second second problem statement or the user insight that we got was the user didn't feel that Netflix has had enough regional content, or they believe that the Netflix only was for people who wanted to watch English movies. So obviously, since I'm just taking this example from the present state of Netflix. So Netflix does has a lot of regional content at the moment, but there still might be a user perception problem. So the idea was to break this perception. We can tie up with regional language influencers who are present on social media platforms, and these can mention the popular regional content that they like to stream on Netflix, and that sort of can help break the barrier. So that was the idea, and yeah, the evidence was that Netflix already has a lot of regional content, so it might probably be just a perception issue. And the hypothesis is that we believe for someone who wants to watch regional content, they'll probably already be following these regional influencers on social media, and watching these influencers access their favorite regional movies through Netflix will help us increase their adoption. I just use random numbers that were in the format. So yeah. The last part is just arbitrary, but that was the idea in general.
Okay. I wouldn't. So the drafting of the hypothesis is quite well, but but sort of we cannot say whether a hypothesis or idea is good or not at this stage. The next stage would be, to understand, do we have any evidence for it? I'm just sort of saying, because the draft of the hypothesis is done well, we can now question, do we have any evidence for it? Yeah, how can we most quickly sort of test this particular hypothesis? So yeah, sorry, Vedant, was it Vedant who?
Vedant.
Yeah, thank you, Vedant.
Hey, this is Ruturaj. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the way we can test this hypothesis is by giving a user altogether different experience for tier 3, where their attention span is minimal, especially for English content, or so perception, breaking the perception. Now, how is letting user install the product, and once they install, don't ask anything and just don't show the 30-second content. That is going to engage them for a longer time and monitor their clicks to which content they are clicking. When we consolidate all this data and then extract the pattern, we will come to know overall users liking. So instead of going by a typical way, selecting the genre and all other things, this is a more cleaner way to do things. And then funneling all this data based on regions and age and relationship status, they will have a good data.
I believe that.
So I think on the regional content, connecting it with the payments, right? I feel that people drop out because they don't see value for money if it's too much of English content and less of, I mean, it's not that there is no regional content, but there is regional content, but it's not really value for what Netflix demands for the subscription, right? So one of the hypotheses, I think, because we have a lot of hypotheses around that point, just kind of throwing in another idea. One of the hypotheses can be that if we decrease the subscription price only for content based on a specific language, then probably your sales would increase and you would say less failure in the payment dropouts. So yeah.
What? Sorry, I mean, I raised my hand up, so maybe somebody is not noticing that. But just a quick thought which I have observed. So maybe a couple of observations. So the problem here is saying that the users are dropping out. So primarily we'll have to identify what exactly is the root cause of people dropping out. So by giving trailers or by just pushing a content or making certain things user friendly will not give us the right picture of what exactly is making people drop out. So it can be the way the payment is done. It can be the person is not understanding the content. It can be a lot of other things. But primarily what I understand here is, so to make somebody acquainted with something, you definitely would leave that piece of say observation to that user, asking him to use that particular piece of website for a, I mean, say period of time, not for, I mean, say longer time, but let's keep it as a month's time to understand what exactly content he or she is looking out. Because even if you see at tier 1 cities, somebody who is an tech savvy guy, he will I mean, say understand the genre of that particular piece of work, and he has such familiarities while he see the advertisements or the TV or the hoardings or all that is outside on the road. But somebody who's at the remoter, they don't understand what exactly is this piece of uh, content, and it becomes difficult for those kind of guys. So even in South Africa, there is a, I mean, say cost perspective with respect to the internet is not free, just like for us guys here. We take a 299 plan for Vodafone or Airtel, we get an internet of how many GB, whatever you want. But something for those countries, it's really difficult. They don't get a free internet. You have to pay for every MB of data. So for those people, it will be useful. I mean, I'm just giving an hypothesis of this. So for those countries or for those kind of people where we are targeting our user base to keep on increasing, because it's all about the number of users that are, even if we have less amount to be credited, but the users are number, automatically the number in the money perspective will go high. So for those people, we'll have to give them a free subscription for some month to understand the content, to understand what they like, and based on those observations we can see, okay, what is the challenge. If the challenge is really the payment gateway or the method of monitoring aspects, then definitely we'll have to give solution or cater something different I mean, say there are n number of ways to cater that part. Or if it is really that, okay, that's not the reason, there is something else which is creating a problem for those guys, then we'll have to figure it out in that perspective.
All right. Thanks for those inputs, Sunil. Okay, so Poulomi, we want to take the final. Everyone has put in their hypothesis. So, do we want to go through a couple of more, or do you want to give some concluding remarks as to what needs to be done in terms of writing the right hypothesis and concluding the right hypothesis?
I'd actually want to understand, maybe hear an experience from one or two people of, if they went from idea to trying to think of hypothesis, what was their takeaway, or what was their takeaway from maybe the entire sort of, so that I know, from an articulation perspective, where have I gone wrong or done right.
Okay. So should I? Okay. So Alok has this idea which is converted into hypothesis, and probably others can also talk about how they created that idea and then converted into hypothesis and how their journey has been in general.
Hello. Firstly, I would like to add over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Basically, my idea was that this was so. Fortunately, I have addressed this problem statement earlier with a couple of my friends, and just as an experiment. So I know a couple of users why they have not been able to, why they fall out at the payment gateway. So based on that, my hypothesis says we provide local vendor collaboration for payment options to the user-facing payment issues for Netflix, and this may stop the constraint of debit card, credit card, and finally the content will be accessible to all.
Okay.
And
so, yes, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add what I have learned from today's session, and when we convert the idea to hypothesis. So one important thing that you triggered was the user type. So basically, even when we look in a problem like user acquisition or retention, which user type we are talking about. So why this idea came to my mind, because the user has already reached to the payment page. That means he or she must have done some what do you call, some browsing, or something must have lead to him to the payment wall, right? Because as a Indian user, I know that I will not go to the payment wall directly. So that is how I differentiated this user segment who is unable to make payment because of either in excess of debit or credit card. And also how the hypothesis should talk about the change and impact. That was a great idea. So thank you so much for the session. I really had fun.
Thank you, Harneet. I'm glad you had a takeaway. Just to add, whenever we sort of write these hypotheses or idea, one of the key things to keep care in your mind is you are not the user. The experiences that you had, the user might or might not have had those experiences, or might not have those beliefs, and hence might or might not act and think on your idea the way you do. So whenever sort of ideating and writing hypothesis, focus on the data that is presented to you rather than the experiences that you yourself have encountered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to add on top of that, right, from my this experience, I strongly feel the hypothesis is basically an assumption of what information we have at best available to us at this moment of time, right, and also our own experiences. So what I kind of I want to add is like user type would definitely, like the personas, would definitely have a lot of value when you try to create an hypothesis, because instead of generalizing users, which will not give us any picture, right? Say for example, when I have to target an audience of age group above 60, I have to think differently what I have to give them, right? And if I have to target an audience of say example teenagers, right? So I have to give a different content and see what would best work for them. So in this case, it just not only the content, I'm talking about the features also, right? So I think that would make a lot of sense when we have to drill down to the level where we need to create an hypothesis. Then classification by user type would definitely help. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. In fact, in the company that we currently work, so Satya also, we work together. What we try to do is we try to connect our data with the personas that we have already formed. And then when we create hypothesis, we try to use the names of our persona when we are talking about the user type that we are talking about. So we've sort of created persona names, and we try to refer to those personas with their names itself, instead of trying to say yeah. So it's just connecting hypothesis plus personas plus the data is quite a nice sort of way to look at things, and it gives a clear streamlined focus on what we are trying to solve.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So we have a slot for one last person to communicate his idea and then his journey from idea to hypothesis and overall journey.
Yeah, Alok here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, so you mentioned this translate audio to different languages, right? Idea.
Yeah.
So we have actually seen that on Netflix with the show Money Heist. So I think it's originally in Spanish, right? And it was converted to English. So we got a lot of viewers from all over the world, and the show was quite a hit. So if we have different shows with, that are converted to different languages, like for example, I would like to see Breaking Bad in Hindi or Marathi, because the show is very good, but most of the people will miss it out because it is in English right now. So if and subtitles is not for everyone, like not everyone can follow subtitles in different languages, and it's quite boring sometimes. So if we have that audio conversion itself to different languages, people will feel it as their own show. So that is what will make the difference.
Okay. And you think that would drive people to the payment gateway?
That is, yes. So the second point was regarding the languages, right? So where people don't want to pay because the content is not in their language. So that I'm trying to address that point. So people are not making payment because the content is not in their language.
Okay. So
yeah, go ahead.
I can't actually read the exact hypothesis that you've written. If you could point me the
yeah, I've highlighted it. So
yeah.
Okay, let me go there.
I would like to talk about the FOMO effect. If we can have early adapters from premium segment, would that help drive more users to the platform and to buy things?
When you say FOMO effect, what is the precise thing that you are trying to change?
Have influencers in tier 2, tier 3 cities download and use Netflix, and even small influencers. You don't need to have the big ones, but community influencers, like folks in some college, folks in community using Netflix, and they could use it for free. And if they write about it, then people would probably adapt more.
Mm-hmm. And what is the exact impact that you're visualizing? I'm sorry, on the screen, I'm not able to read your hypothesis, and hence I'm asking you these questions. What is the exact impact? So let's say you do have those influencers. For a minute, we will say we've already made this change, that there are multiple college going influencers and different sort of influencers. How is it going to uh, how is it going to drive the homemaker and the small business owner uh, to have the desired outcome that we want to have?
So an influencer could talk about the new shows they've been watching, and homemakers, interestingly, uh, do see Netflix, and they get time usually in during between in the afternoon break, after cooking and having kids go to school, or at night after everyone sleeps. So this is the segment. This is the time when they look at their mobile videos, and
So,
that's where a FOMO can drive content.
okay. So, Amit, what you've done is you've done something very interesting. You've taken your idea and then you've built another hypothesis on it, saying that homemakers in the afternoon use Netflix quite a bit. Uh, Now, the other thing that can be done here is you check, you could get into data analytics and see if there is any sort of evidence for this particular hypothesis to be true, or not just directly say to be true, but to be considered to have a certain amount of evidence or risk associated with this particular hypothesis.
Mm,
So
yeah.
your idea is basically reliant on an assumption that you already have in mind about homemakers and the way they behave. Uh, and that particular thing in itself leads to another form of query into the behavior of users.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
we can take the data on when Netflix is most watched by certain demographies, and that could lead us to another hypothesis.
Yeah.
Thank
The
you for helping, build up.
yeah, yeah. Another good practice to do within your team, and maybe this could be the closing remarks, because I mean I know we are running short of the time, is
Poulomi, just one question if you have time. Praveen here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So as someone pointed that the problem is that a lot of great shows which are available in different language are not available in vernacular languages, right? And if we have that, then it will increase the uses. But problem is that even to dub a show from one language to different language with quality and content, it takes time and effort, right? So
Yes.
another approach may be to have artificial intelligence, maybe artificial neural network, to have this dub at real time. It may not be as good as actual studio dubbing, but it would so this, with this idea, I want to know how to create this hypothesis and test that whether the user experience would be good or it would look like a hazard and this dubbing is not perfect. It might even impact in a negative way. So how to test this?
Absolutely. Okay, so first thing you've done is you've formulated the hypothesis that you believe that in the real time, actually speaking, the technology doesn't matter of, how the subtitles of that language comes to the user. The technology of it
Yeah.
can be
So
kept aside.
yeah. So here,
Uh,
yeah. So I'm not talking about subtitles. What I am saying that it's audio is converted from one language to another using artificial neural network in the real time. So let's say
okay,
Breaking Bad, instead of English, it is here in Hindi, and it may not be that perfect as a dubbed because it is done by an neural network or AI, right? So I want to test whether this will enhance the user experience or it will have even negative impact on the overall user experience.
okay. So while this is an idea, that you already have pointed a risk, which is bad impressions of the platform, which sort of drives away the user. So you've pointed a high risk, and when we put all the hypotheses together, you would want to uh, you know keep the high risk ones later and the ones that have high impact and low risk ahead. That being said, if you were looking at some testing like this particular, definitely a certain amount of usability testing can be done to understand when the user sees something that is created real time and would have flaws. Why? Because it is created real time. What is their impact on it? Impact on them? But the question that needs to be kept in mind is, doesn't matter which technology you use, the experience that you are giving, whether it is really driving it to the business goal, that is the payment gateway, and what really the change are you making to drive it.
Right. So I think we had great discussions and great workshop. Poulomi, we would like to hear from you some closing remarks that you would have for the audience over here.
uh, I would say, so there's a lot of reading material that I've sort of mentioned. Please go ahead and read and initiate this, no matter in which phase of UX maturity, or understanding the value to the UX, uh, no matter in your organization which level you are on, start questioning when you're adding a feature to the Jira. Start questioning, okay, what do I think is the impact of this on the user? Do I have any evidence? That's a very, very important question. And start documenting this.
Yep. Great. Satya, over
Yes.
to you.
Thank you so much, Naveen, Poulomi for the excellent talk and a very unique way to test the ideas, to conduct experiments. Working with Poulomi, I think Poulomi will also agree that it's a very intense exercise to really collect ideas, nail down the ideas, differentiate what is exactly an idea, what is a hypothesis, what is a conclusion or an assumption. So this takes some time, but this time is actually worth it, maybe a 1 week or 2 weeks. And then you have a series of hypotheses, you know what you want to code, you know what efforts goes in and what to rule out early on in the product development process. With this, I conclude today's product meetup, and thank you so much everyone who have joined us and who have been so patiently listening to us for such a long time. We hope that you have some takeaways and which you apply in your daily product development process. We also encourage everyone, if you would like to have a follow-up meeting, which would be more, maybe we take one hypothesis and one idea and actually drill it down more further as to how do we measure efforts, how do we measure the success metrics to it. If you're willing to, then please write it in a chat that you agree, and we can arrange something for you all, which you can take it further in your daily processes. And to register for our next meetup, we'll roll out an email to all who have registered for the October meetup. We'll also send a link to register for the mixed panel meetup that we have later this month, to understand what the survey results tell to us. We have also given a link of Viva, which if you want, please register for their newsletter as well. And for those who are interested to join the associate product manager program with us and who are freshers, again, please get in touch with us. It's been amazing to see you all. We conclude, however, the organizers and Poulomi will stay on the bridge in case you have further questions, in case you would like to have a casual discussion with us, in case you would like to know us more. We will be online for until 12:30 or so. So we welcome to people to stay if you want to discuss more further and more casually, which is not related to, again, just the meetup. Some general questions are also welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Satya, for such a Wonderful presentation. Thanks, Poulomi. Thanks, Naveen, Harneet,
Thank you.
and everyone who's made, most importantly, people who've come for the meetup. Product management is a exciting domain, and UX uh, and doing user research is close part of it. So it's great to learn from Poulomi how to do user research. Thank you, Borg, for joining us all the way from Germany. We would love to know more about user research. Uh, Thanks, everyone. Prasad, Ritu, Praveen, and everyone I can see on screen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.